What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Hardworking Happy Hour. I'm Sean.
And I'm Catherine, and as always, we'll be breaking down all things trades, entrepreneurship, and turning your creativity into a passion career. What is up?
What's happening? How you doing?
Oh, I'm so good. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing excellent. I'm doing really well. It's Sunday. It's Sunday. We are not recording this on Friday. We're doing this on Sunday. So not only how was your week, how was your weekend?
Yeah, it was great. The week, very rainy week, work week. Really, not our normal vibe, but honestly, it made for some fun days. Everyone was acting a little unhinged.
Yeah.
It was an adventure of a week.
It really was. And you said, oh, it rained all week. I had
totally forgot already.
I had totally forgotten. Oh my God, it rained literally the entire week. Torrential downpours. Plus, we had an earthquake.
Oh right, yeah, we did.
I forgot about that. How?
And tomorrow we're having a solar eclipse. So really, just every weather event you could have, or is that? I guess a solar eclipse isn't a weather event, but
whether it is or not, it's an event. I'll tell you that much, and it's an exciting one.
Yeah.
And I do have solar eclipse glasses or whatever.
Yeah, Sarah texted me to let me know not to buy any.
They're not the same as regular sunglasses.
They're just like paper, right?
I guess. I'm not totally sure. They don't look like they would be more safe than just regular sunglasses. They look like, if anything, they'd be less safe because they're just the frames are made out of paper. Yes.
Yeah.
For
and then
sure.
Some sort of little film.
Yeah,
right?
It doesn't. Yes, that's precisely what it is. They're like 3D glasses.
Yeah,
is what they look like. So TBD. I guess we'll know by Tuesday if we're blind.
Yeah.
So that's exciting. But
I did see on the news that if you do stare at the sun, it doesn't happen immediately. It's like a sunburn where like you won't notice, and then you notice like a couple hours later you can't see. So that's like a fun little adventure. You think you're
Definitely.
like, I'm totally fine. This is fine.
Yeah, this is fine. I can totally see. And then you're like, oh my God, now I cannot see. But hey, we'll see how that goes. That should be exciting.
Yeah.
The rain this week. The rain was insane.
All right, back to the rain.
Oh, let's go right back to the rain because it was actually pretty crazy. I think we made the most of it. We worked a half a day on Monday. We rocked ponchos. We had the ponchos out and rolling. That wasn't
No, the first
bad.
day you had a poncho.
Oh,
you had the blue poncho with the pigtails.
That's true. You know what? I was the only one wearing a poncho. Everybody else sort of had a rain jacket, but it wasn't raining super hard. It was okay. We made the most of it. We worked like a little less than half a day. Then we got out of there just to get a jump on some things because the whole week was slated for rain. We took off Tuesday, and then Wednesday was the big one. That was the big kicker. It was like a torrential downpour. So I went out and bought like rain suits, yellow rain suits for everybody. And we got a half day of work in. And it was, as you said, pretty unhinged. And it made for I had fun the whole time. I don't know if anyone else did, but I had a good time. It was like halfway between miserable, but it was like so miserable out that you couldn't just help but have fun.
Yeah.
Kind of.
It was. I felt that way on Monday. Monday was maybe even more unhinged. That was the fart joke day. And I was wearing a raincoat that was not really, I mean, it says it's a raincoat, was not waterproof, and jeans, because I thought that we were going to work for like an hour and then go home, but then we actually did end up like working a little bit. So I was like soaking wet, but everyone was just being so funny. And when Anthony is carpentering, he is very serious and very calculating, and like he's always thinking of something, and he obviously jokes around, but he's very like serious. But on hardscape days, he has no pressure because he always is just like, I turn my brain off and I just do whatever I'm told, and I'll move pavers from wherever you want me to. So between the rain kind of like making everyone's mood a little wonky, and then Anthony just being really funny, it was just like both of those days were just so funny.
They really were. I was proud of us for making the most of it, and it honestly made a huge difference, like getting those couple hours of work in, because otherwise we would have been like so behind schedule, and we still are because it's just been raining like an insane amount. But we did it. We did it. We got after it. It was fun while it lasted, and then it went away, and then we had the earthquake, which I didn't feel it. Did you feel it?
I did feel it. Yeah.
Yeah, you were.
I had to go to a doctor's appointment, so I stopped at my house to change before the doctor's appointment, and so I was at my house when it happened, and it was. I cannot believe that you guys didn't feel it. It was so loud, and like I definitely like noticed it happening. So I cannot believe that you did not. You weren't that far away. Like you're like a mile down the road from me. At that point.
Well, I mean, I guess there wasn't really anything to like, there wasn't like, we weren't inside a house. So like there wasn't stuff like moving. I was in the van at that moment. I was working on, I think making some changes to the design. And like 5 minutes after it happened, Steve was like, "Did you feel the van shaking like 5 minutes ago?" And I was like, "I don't think so." Like, what? And he was like, "There was an earthquake." And I was like, "Oh, okay. No, I don't think so." He thinks he felt it. Like, but like when you're in the van and like somebody's just tapping their foot, the van kind of like rocks a little bit. So I don't know. Maybe he might have felt it. Nobody else felt it. Our client was home, did feel it, and got really scared, thought that we were like blowing up the house or something. Like something was going horribly wrong.
Yeah.
And she kind of said the same thing as you. It was long enough where she was like, "Oh my God, what the hell is happening?" And then like looked outside and like had a moment to be like, "I think this is an earthquake." And then it was like 15 seconds long. So
yeah,
I'm pissed. I didn't get to experience it.
Yeah.
It's really kind of a downer. Because it was just like a baby one. It was just like a tiny one. We don't have crazy ones here.
Yeah. They said it was like 4.8, and I don't know if that means like where the epicenter of it happened, because that was like up in North Jersey that it actually happened.
Yeah.
So then I don't know if that means that like we felt it as a 4.8. I don't know how any of that works, but it was definitely very loud, and I could, I was like right outside of my front door, and I could hear the house like shaking, and I could hear it. I could hear like it sounded like a freight train coming, which I do live on the train tracks, so I kind of thought it was that.
Yeah,
but
that's what I was confused about. That was how you explained it, and I'm like, what was making noise? Was it the house that was making noise, or just like the earth itself was letting out some sort of groan?
I'm not entirely sure.
I feel like I would have heard that.
Yeah,
I didn't feel like at any point like, oh my God, is there a train about to crash into me as I'm sitting in this van inside of a driveway?
Maybe it was the house. I don't know. I've also been very close to a tornado, and that also sounded exactly like a freight train. So
really,
yeah.
Oh, and what about? So that was probably in Alabama, I imagine.
That was, yes.
What about when you were in California? Any earthquakes?
While I lived there, the only earthquake that happened was when I was home in New Jersey. So this was the first earthquake I've ever felt.
Was it cool? Would you recommend it? Kind of a weird thing to say.
Yeah, if you can get like a 4.8er in, it was cool.
Yeah, okay.
I wouldn't recommend anything more than that,
no,
just in case. But
yeah,
a little baby one's fine.
Super interesting. I'm really upset that I missed it, but hopefully I don't miss the solar eclipse tomorrow, because that's like it only happens like once every, I don't know, really long time. Sarah was supposed to have a client at that time. She's a therapist, and she's like, "Should I move my client?" And I'm like, "Yeah." It's like a solar eclipse. Like it's not going to happen for like another 50 years.
And they probably want to see it too.
Yeah, that's what I said. So she did move it. So she'll be able to see it. I'll be really bummed if it's cloudy tomorrow. That's going to really, really be a bummer.
That is. Is it supposed to be?
I don't think so. Checked. I don't know. I haven't really checked either, but
we'll have to see.
I guess we'll see. Weather and earth and nature. It's so just, it's a spectrum. And we've been all over the spectrum this past week.
Very true.
So,
do you want to talk about what we're going to actually talk about in this episode?
Oh, we're not going to continue with this. I thought we were just going to work on this for another hour.
We've been talking for about 10 minutes already, so we should probably let the people know what they're getting into.
Let's let them know what they're getting into. So, a couple things that we're going to talk about today are kind of the future of construction a little bit. We are going to be embarking on a journey of building a premier HQ headquarters on my property here. I want to keep calling it a pole barn. It's not going to be a pole barn anymore. It's going to be a building, a 30 by 40 building. And we're going to talk about that because we are going to be working with UFP Site Built on this project. And they are a manufacturer of wall panels and trusses. And we kind of decided that the best way to go about this project was prefabbing basically the entire structure and then assembling it on site. So this is my first time ever doing a project like that. It's going to be my first time building a building like this. So I'm really excited about that. And just the way that you go about it, I just got the plans back, and this whole building in a controlled environment, it's been happening with trusses and floor trusses and all of that kind of stuff for a long time. But I think it's coming to a point where more and more is possible to be built offsite and then delivered and basically assembled. So taking 3/4 of the labor out of the project once you're on site and not having to deal with as much weather and all the stuff that we just talked about. It's super interesting. So I want to talk about that. And we also had a little bit of another topic, which was Home Depot just bought out SRS Distributors, which I had never heard of before until I realized what all their subsidiaries are, which are a ton of suppliers and distributors and all kinds of stuff. Home Depot just bought them for $18 billion. And wild. I think it is going to be a significant change in the next couple years. I mean, I think everyone kind of knew that this was coming, and everyone's trying to figure out how can the big box stores or Amazon master, large quantities of building materials. That's a lot harder to ship than like a little knickknack off of Amazon. So I think this is a big move in that direction to control the supply chain from top to bottom. And I think it's going to be an interesting decade ahead of us as these big companies try to monopolize this whole industry. So I think there's a lot to talk about there as well. So we'll also get into that. I'm thinking we shouldn't have spent so much time talking about the weather. We spent entirely too much. These are two big topics.
A lot more to talk about.
Oh, God. Time management should be our next one. We should really do that, a refresher on time management for our next episode, because not very good at it.
Yeah.
Not very good at all. So.
I mean, we can't control the weather and earthquakes. We had to talk about it.
We had, God, it's on everyone's freaking mind.
I know.
All anyone can talk about.
All right, well, let's talk about the new HQ. Give us the plans, because you have been debating. I mean, actually, it hasn't really been that long in respect to when you started talking about the pole barn, but you have been debating between pole barn, pre-built or not. What do you call it? Not pre-built.
I guess I don't know. I don't know what
prefab is that the word?
Prefab, maybe. Yeah. Okay. Offsite. I don't know. I don't know what.
All right, we got to learn the term.
We'll figure out the term, but we'll talk about that. Yeah. So go ahead.
You have been debating between the two, the pros and the cons. When you first got this land, it was because you wanted a pole barn so bad, if I remember correctly. You talked about a pole barn so very much. But then when you kind of when this other idea came into your brain, you really debated between the two and which way to go. And so where you landed on this not pole barn option, prefab option.
Yeah.
So talk us through that a little bit. Talk us through your mindset. It was such a
difficult time for me. Back and forth, pole barn or building.
Everyone you talked to, you'd ask, pole barn or building?
Absolutely.
Pole barn or building?
Yeah, I'd go in Wawa and like, hey, what do you think? Pole barn or building? Which way should I go? They'd be like, sir, there's a lot of people in line. Please move along. Pole barn was a thing that, like, just a term that I just had always imagined. Like, I want a property with a pole barn. Mm-hmm. That's my entire vision right there. Property, pole barn. Yeah, there needs to, I guess, be a house on it, but pole barn.
That can
just
come
that
later.
term, I was so locked in mentally to that term. And so as I start looking through all the options, a pole barn essentially is going to be the cheapest way to go. That would be something that I would completely hire out, not be part of the construction of that really at all. That would be something that we would just completely sub out, have somebody build it. And I got quotes on that. And for a 30 by 40, 1,200 square feet with 2 overhead doors, 6 windows, and 1 entry door, it was a little over $23,000. That was with 10-foot walls and 412 roof trusses, just traditional roof trusses, and just the outside, all in metal roofing and metal siding. Pretty basic pole barn, and that didn't include concrete floor. So that was another about 10 grand. So
can I ask a question? Is that
yes.
climate controlled?
No.
No climate control.
No.
Or
so
no insulation. Nothing.
No insulation. Okay. Nothing on the inside. You're seeing just the wood framing, and you're seeing the backside of that metal siding. So that's it.
Okay.
That would be kind of the easiest way to go, and it would be the cheapest way to go. I wouldn't get involved at all. Like, we wouldn't be on site building it. It would just be completely hands off. And that would be the quickest way to do it, and it would be the easiest and probably the cheapest. But as I started looking into some other options, I'm like, okay, ideally, it would be nice to have some attic trusses so that there was some storage or possibly office space on the second floor of this building. Because if you're not utilizing that, you're kind of wasting a lot of potential space there. So what I decided to settle on was this prefab option to design the building, have them prefabricate the panels and the roof trusses, deliver them on site, and we'll assemble it. And it's not going to be a huge amount of labor to put this shell together. And I also think it'll be a really cool thing to document and show people as a little bit of a change of pace from our normal deck and patio stuff to be building the new HQ. So that's what I decided on. And essentially, what we're going to have is something that more resembles like a traditional house or building. It's going to be stud walls. Then there's going to be attic trusses. So there's going to be a set of stairs that go up to the second floor of this thing. And there's going to be about 600 square feet of usable space above it, which is going to be awesome. It's going to be 50% more space on the same exact footprint. And yeah, the attic trusses are a little bit more expensive. The materials for all the walls are a little bit more expensive, but it's going to be really interesting to see this thing come together on site and how easy it's going to be to get this shell up. So you haven't been super involved with a lot of the planning on this. It's been kind of in my head. I've done some renderings. I sent them out to some people. What questions do you have about how this whole prefab thing works? I think that's a good way to go about this.
I have nothing but questions. I don't know anything about it.
No but questions, just regular questions.
I don't know how any of it works. I understand that you'd like design it and then they pre-build it, but like, to what phase is the pre-built? What does that mean? And like,
what does it all mean?
Is it like, does it come together like an IKEA package and you just kind of like take your little Allen key and just get in there? Does it come with the tools that you need to build it like IKEA furniture does?
I don't think so. I don't think so.
Is there instructions? Is there going to be like a pamphlet to help you put it together?
Yeah, essentially.
And how does it come? How do they deliver it? It just all comes on a truck and they just drop it in your driveway?
I'm pretty sure it all comes on a truck. I don't think any of it's going to come by plane or boat, but
an airdrop maybe?
It could be. I'm not sure.
That'd be cool.
Yeah, so basically I started out by just sending off what I had was a rendering. It's a pretty simple building. So I knew that I wanted 10-foot walls, 612 roof pitch. So that puts the peak of the roof at 20 feet with it being 40 feet wide. And that's the highest that you can go according to the zoning. So I knew the footprint. I knew the 2 garage doors, the entry door, where the windows were going to be, and what type of roof pitch and all of that. So I basically just sent off that information along with a basic rendering that I did with, our typical software, and sent that to them. And then a little bit of back and forth about questions of what's going to go on there and what's like the uh, load rating going to be on that second floor, little things like that. And then they basically came up with plans for the entire thing, a set of plans, instructions for how to assemble this thing, and all of the panels and what each panel is going to look like. And it's basically the wall is put together, it's sheathed, it's ready for siding, basically. So a 30 by 40 building, 1,200 square feet, comes in 13 panels. And that includes some smaller panels for like in between the garage doors. So it's like the majority of the panels is like 8 panels. And then there's a couple like auxiliary pieces that'll be separate. So essentially 13 pieces to build all of the walls. And then because we're doing the attic trusses, and that's going to be usable space up there, they're going to be 2 foot on center. So there'll be 16 roof trusses. And they're all built. Attic trusses are pretty cool. They're built so that they have a huge open space in the middle of them, not like your traditional one, which, is just completely blocked off. So I'm pretty excited about it. When I got the plans and looked at it and saw the amount of planning that went into it and all of the efficiencies that they can maximize on their end to make this process as easy as possible once it gets shipped out. And it's basically just putting it together. You need some heavy machinery to lift up the wall panels and the trusses and stuff like that. But besides that, it's like, it's there. It's built, it's sheathed. All of your window openings are already figured out. They're already cut out. They're just ready to go. You're ready to pop in windows and doors and go.
Yeah.
Which I think is so cool.
Yeah, it is a really cool concept, but I feel like framing and sheathing isn't, I don't want to say it's not difficult, but I feel like that's the most straightforward part of any build. And once you get into like the windows, doors, siding, flashing, all that kind of stuff, that's what that's where the time really gets sucked. But like framing and sheathing usually goes, like once you have your pad and everything good to go and you're ready to frame, that part usually goes pretty quickly. So do you think that this is going to save enough time to make up for all of the additional stuff that you're going to have to do afterwards, like siding and flashing and windows and doors and
as opposed to just framing it on site, or as opposed to
just having like us frame it up?
So like either way, you still have to do all of the flashing, the windows, so I do think that it's going to save a significant amount of time, especially the roof trusses, well, for one, you wouldn't be able to build a traditional style roof that spans 40 feet with no center support and have, attic trusses. So you're creating a second floor with no bearing beams underneath of it, which is super cool in itself. And then the wall panels, having all of that done. So I'm expecting that all of the walls can be up and together, squared, ready to go, braced, ready for trusses in a day. That's my goal. So you're talking about setting all of the, all of the studs, all of your plates, all of the sheathing, cutouts for doors and windows and garage doors and beams going in over top of those larger openings. I think it's going to save a ton of time. Like, 2 days, I think we'll be able to do walls up, ready, and the roof trusses. And then you still have to sheathe the roof and everything like that. But, 2 days as opposed to, I think for us, it would take us at least a week. At least.
Yeah. Sorry, hang on 1 second. This dog will not shut up. Belle, come here.
Sorry for that distraction, everybody. There's a dog on the loose.
God. I was not expecting her to bark. She's the quiet one. Anyway, so yeah.
I think that it helps humanize us. We're real people.
I do have dogs, people. I'm sorry.
We thought it was an act. Yeah.
I've been faking it this whole time. But anyway, okay, so I get that. What was my train of thought? Oh, okay. And so these wall panels.
Yeah.
Because now that I'm thinking about it, I was just envisioning that it was like sheathed walls framed, but are they gonna be insulated? And what's the inside? And is that all together?
So that is not going to be for us. So I'm not going to insulate it yet. That's probably going to be like a down the line thing. It's going to be set up to basically do whatever we want with it. And that was my train of thought. It was like, and you kind of kept saying that, like, look, you're going to have this for a long time. Like, what's, down the line, what are you going to want in this building? Mm-hmm. And the more I thought about it, the more I was like, I'd rather have that shell as like a real building where the walls can easily be insulated. It can, heat and air. Once it's insulated, it'll be really easy with mini splits and all of that kind of stuff. And just having those 2 foot on center attic trusses, that's creating all that extra space, which could eventually be living space. It could be definitely offices or podcast studio or whatever. Mm-hmm. So that I'm super excited about, but our project is not going to have the inside of it finished in any capacity. It's not going to be insulated, but from my understanding, they can do that. From what I understand. So I'm not totally sure about that, but I think that they can.
Interesting. Well, I think it's going to be a lot of fun to try something new, to put this all together.
God, trying new things is so fun.
And all the heavy machinery we're going to need to, play around with while doing it. So
yeah,
I can't wait. Do you have a time frame for this?
Mid-July.
Amazing. That's so exciting.
And don't say July, because I'm not telling the truth. I'm fully telling the truth. I'm pretty excited about it. And before we get into that, I'm gonna have to take care of some trees. I gotta tend to the land first.
You gotta tend to the land, yeah. And you've started that process, right? You've knocked some trees down yourself.
Cut down a couple trees, yeah. I'm just kind of up in the air about where am I gonna put all these? If I'm cutting them down myself, where am I gonna put all these trees? Because they were one of those standing and now they're laying down. Oh, you got an idea?
You gotta do, yeah.
Okay.
You know those old timey, like, it's not like, it's like a fence, but not really. But it's just like timbers stacked on top of each other in a zigzag pattern.
Yeah.
You got to do that for your property line, so all your neighbors know this is your land.
And it's not like the song, this land is your land, this land is my land. No, this land is just my land.
Just your land.
Not your land.
This is definitely marked by property line.
I hate to say it, but that's a great idea. That's a really cool idea. I like that a lot.
And I know you have other plans for like green giant, arborvitaes, and everything for land markers. Mm-hmm. But, if you got the timber, you might as well.
That's a great point. I actually do love that idea. Great job.
Yay, me. Thanks.
Great job. Yeah. Okay. Well, that's good. And I will need to cut down some more trees. And I started with the smaller ones because I think I talked about this a couple weeks ago. My only experience with cutting down trees is the YouTube video that I looked up after I had already made one cut into a tree and it didn't fall down yet. So I was like, let me look up a video. So I started with some smaller ones and got those taken care of. There probably will be a couple that I'll have to bring in some pros on because they're relatively close to the house.
Yeah.
But the house is barely going to matter once, this building's there. I'll have like a backup house. It'll be awesome. So exciting stuff there. And I think
very exciting.
I think the big, like for us, it's going to save us a couple days. I think for us, it's more trying out this new thing. And also, I think if we had to stick frame the entire thing, like that just wouldn't really be an option because that would take a lot longer. I think we just wouldn't go that route. So I think this opened up the possibility of going this route because it's going to save us so much time just to get that shell up. And then once the shell's there, it can take a year, 2 years or whatever to decide what I want to do with everything inside. Do I want to insulate everything? Do I just want to do that to the upstairs? All of those things I can take time making decisions on, but I have the frame that will be able to handle whatever I throw at it down the line. And I think the huge thing that this is going to do for the industry is not on, one garage building that
Mhm.
it's the only building that we're probably going to do for a long time. Like, we're not going to look back and be like, those say it saves us 5 days. Man, those 5 days really set this business apart. But if you're a company that's building track homes, or you are
Yeah.
building, whatever, you're building a huge volume of buildings or structures, this is going to save so much time. It's going to eliminate so much labor, and it's also allowing the process to be as efficient as possible. So they're drawing up every single panel, and they're getting a cut list for the entire house, and they're doing
Mhm.
that in a controlled environment. And somebody, well, probably not even somebody, a machine is sitting there like, okay, cut 7,500,000 pieces at 96 inches, or 92 and 5/8 for pre-cuts. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know what that's going to do, but being able to streamline that entire process and know how big every single piece of lumber needs to be in the entire build, and being able to pre-cut all of that and just put it together, it's going to save materials. It's going to obviously save a ton of time. It's going to save waste. It's going to save
Yeah.
so much. And I think the process of doing this is just going to get more and more refined, and they're already able to do some insane stuff. So UFP Site Built, they're building a like a housing project in Boston, and everything is prefabricated. It's
Yeah.
going up with a brick facade on it. Like, that's
Oh,
done
how?
in, I don't know. That I don't know. And I
That
need to do
doesn't
some
make
more.
any sense. That's like
I know, it's super interesting though. So they're doing that, they're shipping it out. It's already has that brick veneer on the wall panel, and
that's
they're
crazy.
putting it up, and it's
Yeah.
like a huge project. I forget how many like housing units they're going to be, but it's going to be a huge apartment complex. And
Mhm.
uh that's so fascinating. Like, the days of somebody being, 10 stories up in the air doing like a brick facade on an apartment building, or whatever. Not only is that
Mhm.
super dangerous, it's like, bricklayers and masons, like, there's not that many skilled people out there anymore. So
Mm-mm.
being able to do this in a controlled environment, you're limiting waste, you're maximizing efficiency, um you're just so ahead of so many things when you can go that route. And I just think it's super interesting.
Yeah. But is it taking away the craft?
Um,
That's what
I don't know.
I
I
feel
don't know.
like, as cool as it is, I do kind of just feel like it's the IKEAtization of homes, and it's
Yeah.
amazing. It's so cool that this is an option, and I feel like there's obviously a million use cases for it.
Mhm.
But like for a home, I don't know, it just and I've only ever lived in like 100-year-old homes, so maybe my feeling on that is stronger than most people. But I am like, my whole feed right now is like um DR Horton homes, those like
Oh, yeah.
prefab homes, and how they're all just like terrible and falling apart and stuff. So I just feel like the quality and the craftsmanship is just gonna. And I don't know if I mentioned, but my house just withstood an earthquake, so
Wow.
it's like 100 and I don't know 120 years old. So they just built them so well back then. And is this gonna ruin that?
Um, that's a good question, I guess. I mean, I grew up in a really old house.
Mm-hmm.
It's on the same street that you currently live,
Yes.
and I think it's maybe a couple years older. I think it was built in like 1901, and everything was crooked in the house. Like, the house was like, it's well built because it's still standing, but like,
Yeah.
my dad redid like every inch of the entire house, like, and everything was, and it's still like everything's crooked, everything's,
Yeah.
so, but it's still standing. So I'm not sure what that means for
with wood framing, anything's going to be crooked after a while.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I'm
beast.
just saying, like, what is the level of what's the litmus test here for what's good about a
That's true.
100-year-old house? It's still there. It's great. You know, I don't know. But I think to that point, I think it's the same as it's been like these DR Horton houses that were or Toll Brothers houses. Like there was a huge problem with Toll Brother developments in like the late 90s, maybe early 2000s, where they were having stucco issues. Like entire facades were rotting behind the stucco because it just wasn't prepped properly. It wasn't flashed, and water was getting behind it. And there was like probably thousands of homes that all had this issue. And that is something, you know, I think there's going to be a market for these track homes that are as cheap and as like sort of bare bones as possible. And they're going to cut corners on it. Like whether someone's building that on site or it's going to be prefab, like that is still going to be there. There's still going to be people that are trying to maximize every little bit of profit and cut corners wherever they can. I think to an extent, prefabbing that entire house eliminates a little bit of that because you're just building it to a set of instructions and like all the cuts are pre-made and you're just like assembling it. So I think if anything, it might take away a little bit of that. I think on a really complex custom home, it'll probably be maybe a while before it's more economical and more efficient to get something like that prefabbed and build it on site. You know, we've never built anything like that, like a super crazy custom home, but I think that in a lot of ways, when you're dealing with something like that, it's probably a little bit easier to build that on site because there is so much customization and there's so many different factors in how it goes together. So I don't think it's going to like degrade the craft. Like there's still going to be carpenters out there. There's still going to be, you know, interior finishes that need to be done. Like it's not going to come with a kitchen like in it yet, you know? So
True.
I think it might change. I think framing especially is going to be something that has changed a lot moving forward when it comes to all of this stuff, because there's a lot of players in the game that are kind of attacking this prefab thing. You know, there's Builders First Source, there's UFP, there's like every mom and pop truss company that is out there. Like there is not like an independent one anymore. They've all been bought up. So
yeah,
everything's going in this direction. I think there's still going to be a market for these cheap, simple as they come, you know, like McMansion type of houses that are not the greatest quality. I think that's still going to be there.
Yeah.
But I think it's just essentially a tool or a technique, and it's how you use it, and it's how you use it, and it's how it goes into the industry. It's not bad in itself, and it's not necessarily good in itself. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
It's just like a hammer. A hammer can be used
to
build a house or murder somebody. A hammer is not the bad thing. It's whoever's wielding it.
Right. It's dealer's choice situation. I get it. I do get it.
Something to think about.
I get it.
Something to think about. Yeah. The industry's a changing, and you can't be scared.
I know. And
you can't be scared.
There's nothing I can do about it. I'm not changing anything.
Well, not with that attitude. And also, you can't be scared because change is inevitable, and it's just going to happen. It's just going to happen. So don't worry about it. Embrace it. See how you can be one of the people that leverages it for good.
Yeah, that's true.
To build sustainable housing. What about sustainable,
my gosh.
low
the uses for that? My God, amazing.
Low carbon footprint, more efficient in the way that it's heated and cooled and all of that stuff. That is going to be so much easier when it's built in a controlled environment, and you can analyze every single piece that goes into it to eliminate thermal bridging through the exterior of your home. Like there's so many cool things that can be perfected using this model. So it's interesting. Yeah. It's really interesting. And above all else, It is something to think about.
It is something to think about.
It's absolutely something to think about.
All right. Speaking about taking over the world, let's talk about Home Depot.
Okay. Yeah. Well, we'll be updating people on the Premier HQ because I'm super excited about it. It's been my dream my whole life. So,
or at least the last couple of months.
Pole barn those are my first 2 words. Pole barn. What is he saying? Is he saying mama, dad? He said pole barn? I just want a pole barn. All right. Lay off me, people. I want a pole barn. All right. Is that too much to ask for?
It's not.
Thank you. All right. We're talking about the industry changing so much. And now let's talk about Home Depot acquiring SRS Distribution for $18 billion. That's a lot of money.
That's wild.
It really is a lot of money. And I feel like do they even go through any type of like methodology to figure out how much they're going to buy for? Or are they just like, we want to buy you? What, 10 billion, 30 billion? Who cares? It just is 18 billion. Like, it just seems so astronomical. And like, I don't know, you're used to hearing like tech companies getting bought for like the billions.
Yeah.
You know? So that's crazy.
Yeah.
In itself.
It is interesting. Like what's the move here? What's next? What is their end game with that? Are they going to keep trying to acquire these other massive companies? And then they're just going to be like a $100 billion company or whatever, whatever astronomical number they want.
Well, I think they're already over $100 billion. Well,
yeah, I'm sure.
Let's get a producer on the. We should get a producer that can look stuff up like this. Yeah,
that would be helpful.
But I think basically what they're trying to do is, get to the person's backyard as quick as possible. So basically, the Amazon model where you order something and it's going to be at your house next day in the next 12 hours, that same day, 3 to 6 p.m., whatever it is, like getting that time frame and mastering that delivery model, I think is what they're after.
So it's a distribution thing, not a supply thing.
That's I think it's basically like extending their little tentacles into, because there's a lot of infrastructure that goes around distribution. I think that's something that gets overlooked a little bit. And I'm looking right here, $152 billion last year was their revenue.
Oh my God. That's a lot of money.
That's a lot of money. It's a lot of cheddar.
I would not have guessed that much.
Really?
That's crazy.
I thought it was going to be more, to be honest. But
I mean, I know it's like a huge number, but like $152 billion. Yeah. That's a lot of money.
I think so. I would definitely say that's a lot of money, yeah. I think so. I do think so. Yeah, there's so much infrastructure and, things that go into being a distributor. Like Home Depot already has locations everywhere. They're you probably anywhere you go in this country, there's one relatively close to you in your market for sure. And you might look at that and they already have the locations. Like, why can't they just kind of leverage those? But you go to a
distribution centers. They can't.
Yeah, when you go to a distribution center, you're like, this is like 100 Home Depots put together,
completely different operation,
and just like ready to pick an order and put it on a truck and send it somewhere.
Yep.
And I think that's really what they're investing in, is that already built up infrastructure, because they could probably, with that cash, go and just buy a bunch of land and buy trucks and buy forklifts and warehouses and all this stuff to build their own distribution centers. But it just makes more sense. Like, the infrastructure is already there. And I think they look at it as a race. Like, there's definitely a, what do you call that? The first mover advantage or whatever. Like, the first person to figure out this model is going to probably win. You know what I mean? So I think they're looking at it as, let's just invest all this capital into buying this distribution company. It's, I think, one of the largest distributors of building materials in the U.S. for sure. and we're just going to be the first mover in this direction, and we are going to capitalize on it and kind of get here before everyone else can make a move.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, in order for them to like build or buy existing like just distribution facilities, like that would take a very long time for them to build up their own systems around that. So it just makes total sense to do it. I mean, if you have $150 billion just to buy another company that already has that in place. So it seems like they're just going to pull right ahead of anybody. I mean, I don't really think they even have too much competition, but they're really like positioning themselves to just crush it in this new model if that's what they're going after.
Yeah.
That's just
totally.
That's wild.
I'm going to look up what are, because I saw something. So, Heritage Supply Group.
Mm-hmm.
So they're a huge company. They're owned by SRS Distribution. So
who else do they own?
Are you eating something? What is that?
Hey.
What is that? What are you doing?
I'm chewing ice.
That's like the worst thing.
Is a bad idea.
It's like the worst thing you could possibly do. I literally thought before coming down here, I was like, I'm in my basement. I was like, oh, I should bring down a snack, maybe goldfish. And I was like, immediately, like, no, that's a terrible idea. Ice is like the worst thing that you could possibly.
I had a cup of water
on the radio.
Now I'm out of water, just ice. As soon as I ate it, I was like, this is terrible. Bad idea. I'm really sorry, audience.
It's okay. It's okay. So they have a ton
can you? Yeah, throw out some more names from SRS.
Bill Wall Supply. I don't know if that's like a nationwide thing, but there was Bill Wall Supply was somewhere that I used to go with my dad all the time down in
Bill Wall.
Bill Wall Supply, yeah. They were like a big place. Roofers Supply, American Roofing Supply. Heritage has Heritage Pool Supply Group and Heritage Landscape Supply Group. A ton of really big companies. And so Heritage is somebody that I found out a lot more about, I think either this year or the year previous at Deck Expo, because the Deck and Pool Expo, and also at HNA. And talking with a lot of people that work there, you realize, so Heritage Landscape Supply Group is a subsidiary of SRS Distribution. Heritage then, like, their model is to go around and buy mom and pop, like, local landscape yards. So they own a ton of locations that are, some of them branded as Heritage, some of them are still under, what they were bought as. And
Site One
it's
model.
like this. Exactly. Yeah. They're like another Site One. They have hundreds of locations, and then they're a subsidiary of SRS. So it's like they have their little tentacles everywhere. And
the moral of the story is everybody is going to be owned by Home Depot at some point.
Or Amazon might come out and say, we just bought Home Depot for, I don't know, $1 trillion. Like, at that point, it's just like, that's when money's not even real. It doesn't make any difference. It's just like, I don't know, they swap stocks or give them options, or half of it's in cash, half of it's in, I don't know. It's just all made up at that point. Like, makes no sense.
True.
So who knows? But this is like, it'll be interesting to see at what point does like the government try to step in with some of this like antitrust stuff. They always throw this at like Apple and tech companies that are trying to monopolize, or like the phone companies used to do. Like, I think they broke up one between Verizon and AT&T or something at some point. So it'll be interesting to see, like, at what point does one company start to monopolize this industry and the government tries to step in to break it up. And then is that even a good thing? Like, does it make sense to do that? Is that in the best interest of the people to not let something like this happen? And like, does that promote more competition? I don't know. I
mean, you got to have competition to keep the prices down. If you don't, then Home Depot is going to be like, a 2x4 is now $275. What are you going to do? You got nothing. You have no other options. You're going to pay for that $275 2x4.
Is a 2x6 still like only $6? I can rip it down?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I'll do that.
If I'm making the rules, yeah.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, it's I think we're just at such a turning point of the industry. Like all the things that we saw with the internet and the tech boom of like the early 2000s, and obviously that stuff is still happening and crazier stuff is coming out, but like the construction and building materials industry in general tends to be slower and more old school and a lot like more resistant to adopting these new models and things. So I think we're now seeing like this huge rush of the last couple of years. Like UFP was buying a ton of different companies, Builders First Source buying everybody. Like all of these companies are just like buying as much stuff as possible. Like acquisition is the name of the game, and Home Depot's doing the same thing, and I'm sure Lowe's won't be too far behind them, and Amazon and all of these. It's huge industry, so you know that there's going to be a lot at stake, and I just hope that in the end it's for the best of the industry and it can make things more efficient. It can get the supply chain a little bit more universal, like people can get things that they want, nationwide, and it kind of eliminates a lot of hiccups between supplier and contractor and distributor and all that kind of stuff. But I don't know, maybe it makes it worse.
Yeah,
time will tell. It's a lot. It's a lot.
So much is happening.
God, why can't everyone just slow down and take it easy? Jeez. Like I just got into this industry and they're already changing it up on me. God. It's crazy. I feel like this whole conversation could have been something on like CNBC or like, I don't know, whatever, like those ones where they talk about like stocks and companies.
Yeah.
I don't watch that kind of stuff, so I don't know. But we were getting into some pretty good stuff.
I'll send them this clip and let them see if they want to use it.
Yeah, I could be like one of those. You could too, but I'm just talking about me right now. I could be one of those people that are like, we have construction expert Sean Collins grew here to talk about the acquisition of SRS Distribution. What's that going to do to the stock price? Well, Jim, I see it, go one or two ways. I think that it could bring it straight down into the ground, or it could go to the moon. So take that to the bank. I think
that's pretty much all they ever say anyway. So you're fitting in perfectly.
Yeah. To the moon. Are they still saying that? To the moon?
I also don't watch them, so I'm not entirely sure, but
I think that's only really.
I think it's a crypto thing. Yeah.
To the moon. Well, very interesting.
It is interesting.
Do you care one way or the other if like how this goes for Home Depot? Are you rooting for Home Depot or against? We're just like, I'm just going to sit on the sideline and just watch.
I don't love the idea of monopolies in general. I feel like it's just big money buying big money, and then, the little guys are always the ones getting squished. But if Home Depot is able to perfect this sort of model where they're kind of going to like an Amazon-esque kind of way of going, that would be incredibly convenient for us. So I kind of hope that works out for them in that way.
Yeah.
So I guess I'm rooting for them. Go ahead. Go on with your bad self, Home Depot.
Yeah. And then do they start buying up the manufacturers? I guess that's when it would really be a monopoly.
Yeah,
that would be like they manufacture the thing. They are the distributor. They are the delivery service that puts it in your backyard. And then they'll build it for you. Not well. Not well at all. I bet they'll never figure that part out.
Yeah. I think they've been at that for a while and they're not doing a great job.
It out. Yeah. So something to think about there. Yeah. A lot to think about, actually. So we'll just leave it there. Let us know what you think about that. And it brings me to a very important question that I do have for you, Catherine Lippincott.
Me or the people?
Yes.
Me. Okay,
You. When you're playing Monopoly, the game, what's your strategy? Are you like just throw all caution in the wind and buy every single thing that you land on? Or are you playing it safe? What's your way to go?
No safety at all. Caution to the wind. I'm buying everything. Risking it all for the biscuit. It's just a game. Gotta go big or go home.
I like how you throw it. It's just a game. You really downplayed the stakes that were here. Yeah, by playing it safe, it's actually the most dangerous way to play.
100%.
Because you're just going to be
playing it safe.
You're just going to be renting off somebody. Somebody else is going to buy that place you had your eyes set on, you know?
Yep.
You might have had your heart set on, you know, Ventnor Ave, and somebody's going to come through and buy it, and you're going to just be kicking yourself till you go to jail.
Yep.
Do not pass go. Do not collect $200. Houses used to be so cheap back then. God, you could buy a hotel for like $800.
It's a steal.
Unbelievable. Well, can we just agree that Monopoly is like the worst game?
Oh God, it's so long.
It's so long, and like literally, like everyone that I've ever played with, the strategy is you just buy every single thing that you land on.
Yeah.
And then there's always that one person that's stealing money out of the bank, and you know, it's just at least in my family.
I don't know about your experience. Every time I've ever played it, people get so mad. I'm like,
oh yeah,
it is just a game, but people get. Because you're doing it for so long and you're so frustrated and you're like, we just want this to be over and somebody to win. Everybody gets all mad.
Yeah. I always get mad when I play games because I get really competitive over them. Like, if you ever played Catchphrase?
Are you going to tell the catchphrase story?
Oh, no, I wasn't going to. But, we don't have to get into that. That's another story for another day. But anyway.
Yeah, you get very heated.
I do get very heated playing Catchphrase because it's so, and it's just, you know, I don't know. Anytime we play games with my family, like they're all just like everyone starts fighting with each other and everyone's trying to cheat a little bit, and it's just like ridiculous. Like we played with my dad one time, and he was playing the whole time, and he's the one giving the clue, and he's got the thing for Catchphrase, you know, the little device, and he's like, you know, oh, it's like a thing that, you know, whatever. He's throwing out clues, and then like somebody will say something, and he'll be like, yeah, and then he'll hit next and hand it to the next person. And then he said at the end of the game, he's like, yeah, I was just saying yes, like when you guessed something, and then I was hitting next, so the next person couldn't even see that I was just making this up. And I'm like, that's not the point of the game. Like, it's a really creative way to do it, but that's not the point.
That's awesome.
That's not the point at all. Nobody really thinks in the heat of the moment to be like, wait, you hit next. Like, I couldn't see if that was really the word. Nobody thought about that, and I didn't.
You owned up to it, though. That's good.
I guess. Yeah, it was like, okay, well, now we're done, and now it's I don't know how to feel about this. What else have you lied to me about? Dad? Yeah, if that's even what you are. So anyway, stuff like that always happens when my family plays games like Risk. Oh man, that was the worst. You ever played that game?
No.
You never played Risk?
No.
Do you know what it is?
It's like you're trying to take over countries or something?
The whole world.
The whole world.
You're trying to take over the whole world, one country at a time.
Country by country.
Yeah, we used to play that, and I haven't played that in years, but yeah, always end up in a fight, and the game never finishes because somebody yells and throws all the pieces. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. Yeah.
All right. Well, what else you got? Anything else this week?
That's about all I have, and you know what? Last thoughts as we shut this down is things are always changing. Things are always changing, which means it's going to disrupt whatever you're doing right now. It's going to disrupt the status quo. And a lot of people get really nervous about that. They're like, "Oh no, I feel really comfortable right here. I feel like I've figured out the way to navigate this world or this industry." And then they get scared when things are going to change, but things are always going to change. And you know what the most beautiful thing about things changing are? What? Do you know what it is?
Evolution.
No, wrong. Oh, wrong. It opens up a whole new plethora of possibilities and opportunities. When things change, as long as you're in a position to have your eyes open to the opportunities that are presenting themselves, like that's where the big things can happen. When things change, you keep your eyes open and you look at these opportunities. And if you're in a position where you can pursue the right one that you feel really strongly about, you can be in a really, really great position as long as you are in a position to be able to look out for those opportunities and just be conscious of like what's happening in your industry, in your business, in the world. And you can move towards those opportunities. So anytime there's a lot of big changes, there's a lot of big opportunity. So take that for what you will and keep it moving. That was pretty good. That was a pretty good one. What do you think about that?
It was a great one. Did you black out and then just keep talking?
Of course, yeah.
Amazing.
Of course. So that's all we got for you this week. Next week, we will get into the book review, The Buddha and the Badass.
Yes.
That one's going a little bit slow because it's so good. I'm really enjoying it so far, and we're going to get into that. We want to have enough time to really dive into it. So more on that next week.
And we're thinking about having some more guests on. So if you have any suggestions of who you might think might be a great guest on our podcast, let us know, and we'll reach out to them and see if they want to be on our podcast. So
absolutely,
and and subscribe and do all of the good things.
Yeah,
why don't you tell them?
If it's not working when I say it. You tell them to do it. Threaten them, Catherine.
Please. I'll come to your house and find you, and then I'll steal your phone and I'll give us a review on all of the things. So do it. You're probably just sitting here right now anyway, listening to this. So open your phone, give us a little review or a 5-star rating, and subscribe. So
it's a really good
threatening enough?
No, it just honestly, it was just like, wait, why don't we just go that other route? We just steal people's phones. That seems like the easiest way to do this. So don't make us do that. Do what Catherine said and just hit subscribe, share it with a friend, whatever you got to do. And until next time, this has been the Hardworking Happy Hour.
See you next week.